It's Robo, and we're back with another episode of Robo-Reviews. And on this episode of Robo-Reviews, we're going to take a look at a prepackaged tactical trauma care solution called the Crisis Application Group Tier 1 IFAK Kit. Check it out. So guys, here you have it, the Crisis Applications Group Tier 1 IFAK Kit. Now this is a pre-packaged supplies kit that's filled with everything you would ever need to fulfill your individual first aid kit needs in terms of an emergency trauma situation. Now it was created by the Crisis Application Group to be a one-stop shop option for all of these supplies rather than sourcing them all yourself. And in doing so, actually works out to be a little bit cheaper, I've found, in the long run. So with that being said, let's tear this open and show you what's inside. Now, with the package open, you can see each of the individual items that come stocked in it. These items are the most basic set of medical devices that generally make up an IFAK, and they cover the MAR steps of the March assessment sequence with a bit of hypothermia management. So with that said, let's take a look at them individually quickly, and I'll explain where they line up with March. With the first letter of the March assessment sequence being M for massive hemorrhage, the first item to go over is a North American Rescue CAT Generation 7 tourniquet. CAT being obviously an acronym for Combat Application Tourniquet, for those of you who have not seen this before. Now, a tourniquet is one of the fastest ways to gain hemorrhage control of an extremity in a tactical or emergency trauma situation. Now, this comes brand new and comes with instructions if you're not trained on them. Now, that does not replace training, obviously, and that goes the same for any of the other items in this kit. These next two items also fall under M for massive hemorrhage control. Now, they're two packages of North American Rescue S-rolled gauze. Now, gauze is used for wound packing, i.e. filling a wound cavity in order to apply pressure to a vein or artery from the inside of that wound in order to stop bleeding. Now, the S-rolled nature of this gauze just makes it easier to deploy rather than rolling on itself, in which case you gotta unroll it in a linear fashion. This basically rolls from one end, so it deploys easier into a wound, so you can actually deploy it quicker in the end. Now, these are just regular gauze. These aren't a hemostatic impregnated gauze. Now, a lot of guys will carry one of each, or at least a hemostatic as well, but I will say they're not required. Now, a hemostatic gauze will just allow the body to achieve a natural cascade towards blood clotting a little faster than a regular gauze. But like I said, it's by no means a mandatory thing. It just shortens the amount of time that you need to apply pressure after filling a wound. With a standard gauze, you should be applying 5 to 10 minutes of pressure on that wound to help your body actually clot. With a hemostatic gauze, it's around 3 to 5 minutes. So again, it's just something that helps, but by no means necessary, especially when used in conjunction with the next items here. Next are two North American Rescue emergency trauma dressings. Now, these are also called pressure dressings or Israeli bandages. Now, that's not exactly an Israeli bandage because that's a very specific thing, but they do the same thing. Now, these apply pressure to a wound for you. And that is so you can return your attention to a tactical situation faster, and it does this by allowing you to bypass holding a wound manually to achieve clotting once it's been packed. Now, of course, these do fall under the M, again, of the March assessment, being massive hemorrhage control. Now, this is an item that lines up with the A part of the March assessment sequence, or airway, and it's actually a nasopharyngeal airway tube. And it's used to secure a patient's airway in an emergency or tactical situation if their natural one has been compromised in any way. And what I mean by that is if there's anything obstructing the natural pathway from the mouth, throat, down to the lungs, and that is by either fluids or by flesh or any other sort of obstruction. Now, it does this by being inserted through the patient's nose, which allows this tube to actually fall down the back of the person's throat, thereby securing a physical open, unobstructed airway path. Now, to make that insertion just a little bit easier, it does come with a small package of lubricating jelly. Now, next are items that deal with R of the March assessment, and that stands for respirations. And essentially, this step deals with any sort of chest injury or things that would impede the ability to breathe naturally. Now, these themselves are North American Rescue high-fin vented chest seals. and they basically do just that. They seal any open wound to the chest to prevent air from getting into the chest cavity. Now, the vents on these seals allow for air to escape though, and that's if the lung is punctured, and that avoids a potentially deadly affliction from developing called tension pneumothorax, where trapped air inside the chest cavity between the chest wall and the lung itself presses on major arteries and veins, which can be quite deadly, like I said. Basically, they're like a giant sticker you stick on top of a chest wound to basically seal it. Now, these generally come in a twin pack, or at least I've only seen them come in a twin pack like you see here, and that's just so you can account for an entry wound and an exit wound. A lot of injuries, like say a gunshot wound, will come naturally with an exit wound, and you need to seal both of those, so that's why you see two of them. Now, this next item here also deals with respirations, and no, it's not a fancy Sharpie. It's actually quite a serious medical tool. This is called a decompression needle, and it goes back to when I mentioned the affliction called tension pneumothorax, where air is actually trapped in the chest cavity from a leaking lung. Now, what this is used for is to create a pathway for that air to get out. And in terms of a tension pneumothorax, which, let's say happens when you puncture a lung due to a broken rib, meaning there's no exit wound for that air to naturally escape, you literally have to stab somebody with a giant needle to allow air to escape before tension pneumothorax develops. And that's what this is. This is a giant 14 gauge, 3.25 inch long needle that you stab through the chest cavity from the outside to allow that air to have a path to escape and the pressure to decrease. Now, like I said, this is a very serious medical device and should not be used by anybody who is not trained with it, because frankly, you can kill somebody by deploying this wrong. It does come with instructions on the outside from North American Rescue, but by no means does that replace any sort of training or certification required to deploy this item. And now the final item in that kit, and it's the one that actually deals outside of the MAR portion of the March assessment, and it's actually a part of the packaging or C portion of March, and it deals with hypothermia. It's actually just a rescue blanket. A rescue blanket is one that actually retains 90% body heat, and it also acts as a reflective blanket for search and rescue operations. So again, this is an item that is developed to put over top of a patient so you can actually help them retain heat. And that's really important. A lot of people don't realize that as soon as you're bleeding, and bleeding a lot of blood, you are probably going to be hypothermic. Your body has lost its ability to maintain its own temperature. And unless the temperature outside around you is over 37 degrees Celsius or almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 98.7, that person is going to be hypothermic, and hypothermia can lead to death very quickly in an emergency trauma situation. And that's why this is included in every IFAK kit, or should be included in every IFAK kit. It is super important to retain that body temperature and that body heat to allow a patient to have increased survivability from their traumatic wounds. So guys, there you have it. All the individual items that come in the Crisis Application Group Tier 1 IFAK kit. Like I said, this kit makes it that much easier to find all of these supplies rather than sourcing them all yourself, and actually it works out to be a little bit of a deal. This kit itself sells on the CAG site for $99.99 USD, which, like I said, is a deal over having to actually buy it all separately. Now, where you can find this is on the Crisis Application Group website. That address is cagmain.com or CAGMAIN.com. I'll obviously link that in the description below. But if you're looking for a pre-stocked kit to fill your IFAK with, I gotta tell you, this is totally worth it. So do check out their website. It's linked in the description below. And of course, as always, guys, I hope you've enjoyed. Thanks, guys. So there you have it. That pretty much takes care of another episode of Robo-Reviews. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Coming down the pipes next in terms of gameplay, I've got plenty of gameplay still to come down the pipes with the next installment of my Copperhead 2.5 footage, as well as my Op 34 and Faded Giant 5 footage to show you. Now, in terms of reviews, I still have tons of stuff on my desk to take a look at. So that means for you guys, a ton of reviews coming down the pipes as well shortly. Now, as always, I do want to take a quick second to thank my foremost awesome sponsors, being Enola Gay Tactical Smoke Grenades, Red Wolf Airsoft, Coyote Tactical Solutions, and Virtus Outdoor Group. Now, these companies provide me support in such a way that allow me to do more airsoft but more importantly, bring you guys more gameplay, more reviews, and more philosophies to learn from and enjoy. So big thumbs up to these companies. If you guys could do me a huge favor, and that is visit the websites I've got linked in the description below. Thanks. So whether you did or you didn't like this video, this guy still wants to know about it. Drop me a line in the comments below. I love the feedback and the conversation. And if you could do me a huge solid, and that is like, subscribe, and share with all your friends. Keeps me happening in this YouTube game. And until next time, guys, keep having fun playing Airsoft, being good community members, defend what you love. Later, guys.